I've said it before, but I'll say it again. In my opinion, a 5 out of 5 score should have some kind of meaning. When you tell me that an album is perfect, that it's a masterpiece, that you have awarded it a 5 out of 5, that should have some weight and power behind it. But it doesn't and won't if you're already giving out 5 out of 5 scores to every other album every other day of the week, as many of you, or at least some of you, would have me do. Those of you who are upset with me for not frequently giving out 5 out of 5s, for not saying that every other album that comes my way is perfect or a masterpiece just because it's fun and it's got some fun riffs and it's brutal and it's heavy. For me, those things alone do not make for a perfect album. If I give something a 5 out of 5 score, it's not just because I like it. It's not just because it's brutal. It's because it moved me. It resonated with me. I feel that it's pushing the envelope, thinking outside the box, doing something new and crazy and absolutely wild, and on top of that, is immaculately written, performed, and produced at the highest possible level. This is something Imperial Triumphant have exceeded at doing on their last couple of records, Alphaville and Spirit of Ecstasy, hence why both of those albums got 5 out of 5 scores. And Goldstar, I am proud to announce, is no exception to the rule whatsoever, and somehow, possibly, might be their tightest, most refined, and most excellent album to date. Today we're talking about Goldstar from Imperial Triumphant, and spoiler alert, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. Cheers. Oh, that's good rum. I may or may not have done that a few times, trying to get that opening part right, and as a result, we went from having like this much rum to this much rum. That's a good amount of rum that's like in my body right now. Rum in my tum-tum. Yum yum. Goldstar is the 6th full-length studio album from this blackened death metal, avant-garde, jazz metal fusion crew hailing from New York City and also heavily inspired and influenced and informed by New York City, the history, the architecture, the culture of New York City. Over the course of the last 17 years, Imperial Triumphant have done an increasingly excellent job at channeling the elegance, opulence, majesty of New York City, the promise and sanctuary of New York City, and also the horror, the harsh reality, the brutality of New York City into something melodramatic and chaotic and extreme, blending influences from black metal, death metal, avant-garde, prog metal, and jazz fusion and experimental jazz music, complete with brass instruments and dizzying arrangements and brutal towering walls of noise and menace and metal. It's awesome. I'm just gonna nerd out for a second, because I genuinely do really love Imperial Triumphant. It's awesome. With all of this in mind, I was obviously hyped the fuck up for Goldstar. I had very high expectations, and I am happy to report that the hype is real. All of my expectations have been met, and while it is maybe, possibly, potentially, hypothetically fair for at least a cynic to argue that Goldstar isn't as chaotic or unpredictable as Alphaville and Spirit of Ecstasy, simultaneous to that, there are a variety of new flavors and spices that will keep veterans like myself on the edge of their seats. Plus, also, a major focus this time around wasn't necessarily getting bigger, it was more so refining what was already there. As a consequence of doing the 2024 cover song series in which they put their own spin on classic cuts from Miles Davis, Rush, and Metallica, and also as a consequence of just wanting shorter, more compact, more dense songs to put into a set list, particularly when they go out and open for bigger name artists like Abbath, Zealand Ardor, and Mayhem, Imperial Triumphant was inspired by more traditional songcraft and songwriting. Like, they really challenged themselves to put everything that defines them and a few other things into songs that had more traditional flows and also had more traditional runtimes without compromising the bizarre insanity and malice. Like all of the Voivod-esque prog metal riffs, all of the Gorguts-esque lurching riffs and unorthodox drawls, all of the jagged, angular passages, improvisational jams, influences from ritualistic underground black metal, experimental jazz, and jazz fusion music with new spices all just brought together into a more condensed and compact package, and it still packs the same fucking punch, and I love it. I love it. I love it. The rum is starting to hit me, but I love it. You've got Gomorrah Nouveau, which takes influence from North African Gowana music, blending it with jagged, angular passages, dissonant, blackened avant-garde death metal flurries. Then there's Pleasure Dome, which brings in influence from Brazilian maractau music and has a variety of super jammy, almost kind of Buddy Rich style percussive sections, also featuring both vocal and percussive contributions from Thomas Hake of Meshuggah fame and also Dave Lombardo of Slayer, Testament, Suicidal Tendencies, The Misfits, Dead Cross, and Mr. Bungle fame. Then there's New York City, a completely improvised, violent, and bloodthirsty grindcore jam featuring Yoshiki Ohara of Bloody Panda fame on lead vocals. Then there's Hotel Sphinx, which has these very towering, technical, fast-paced, intimidating guitar riffs, kind of working alongside some very consuming, warbly, kind of funky bass work to create something that just feels very powerful and menacing. Love the use of more ambient, chilling synths later on in the cut to provide some really cold contrast. The closing number, Industry of Misery, is a pretty creepy cut as well, complete with some jazzy piano sections and some lurching grooves, and also these very slow, almost kind of doom metal-esque passages, complete with very soulful Black Sabbath-esque guitar licks. And even the title track, Goldstar, while operating as an album interlude of sorts, goes into some interesting territory with this 1920s, 1930s, almost barbershop quartet kind of schmaltzy, waltzy kind of commercial jingle that you might have heard on the radio way back in the 1920s or 30s. And in fact, the opening keys even reminded me of I Don't Want to Set the World on Fire from the Ink Spots. The opening number 2 pairs pounding riffs and regal, bombastic, brassy horns in a way that in theory would sound quite regal and triumphant and important, and it still does to an extent, but with the added weirdness and kind of extra flair and spice of Imperial Triumphant, it sounds more like a mad despot or oligarch going through some kind of like mental breakdown, but still expecting the power that they want and crave. And I found all of this and so much more, from crescending, descending rhythms to moments of full-blown jazz metal mania to ritualistic black metal sections and so much more, to just be utterly consistently thrilling. And even if Imperial Triumphant is still relying on some familiar ingredients and influences, it still felt really, really fresh. Like, there were still multiple moments where I was really caught off guard. And the production and mixing and mastering, courtesy of underground metal superstars like Colin Marston and Arthur Rizek, does an amazing job at really capturing the entire size and scale and scope of everything Imperial Triumphant is trying to do without being super loud and overwhelming. Like, it's super big and filled with dynamics, but it never feels too busy or pretentious. And it's got a nice crystal clean finish. Everything is present and clear in the forefront of the sound, but it doesn't really compromise those rough or raw edges either. Dare I even say the new Goldstar standard for underground extreme metal production? Huh? Okay, I won't say. Geez, god damn, it wasn't that bad of a pun. Holy fuck you! I've had a bit to drink. Let's see you come up with something better. In a press release for this album, Zachary Ezrin writes, "This was hardly our Guns N' Roses Chinese democracy with too many resources and too much money, ruining the purity of something. This is more of our appetite for destruction." Which is a really interesting and fascinating thing to say, because Appetite for Destruction wasn't album number 6 from Guns N' Roses. It was album number 1. But at the same time, it was kind of a smorgasbord of everything that Guns N' Roses knew and loved at that point. The combination of classic rock influences and glam and punk and traditional heavy metal and everything that they had kind of learned from what little touring they had done, everything they'd learned from like just kind of being a rock band in that environment in the late 80s in LA. And as a result, it was able to occupy so many territories at once. It was sleazy, it was dark, it was heavy, it was genuinely fucking catchy. That's why still to this day it pleases so many different audiences. And I don't just love this analogy because I also love Guns N' Roses and that album. I love this analogy because to me, it shows that as far as Imperial Triumphant is concerned, they're just now getting started. Like, in theory, this could have been a Chinese democracy spectacle, where they are just throwing money and resources and talent at the fucking wall like fucking garbage, just throwing fucking everything and seeing what sticks. But instead, much like Appetite for Destruction, they're taking everything they know and love, everything they have learned, and they're using it to make the best possible album. Now, I highly doubt Goldstar will be as accessible as Appetite for Destruction, but I certainly would like to think that much like Appetite for Destruction, this is the beginning of an era for Imperial Triumphant. This somehow has me even more excited for what this band could do in the future, if that were somehow even possible. And much like Appetite for Destruction, I feel very comfortable giving this album a 5 out of 5. I think it's perfect. I think it's honestly kind of perfect. Fuck you. It's so good that I don't even know what else to say. I've said all that there is really to say. If I say anything more, it'll be like spoiling a really good movie for you. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna throw spoilers at you. Just go listen to this album and allow it to envelop you and allow yourself to discover it for yourself. Everything that makes it so wild and cool and funky. And if you have yet to check out Imperial Triumphant, please do also check out all of their other albums: Vile Luxury, Alphaville, Spirit of Ecstasy. Goldstar is a perfect 5 out of 5 album and further proof that Imperial Triumphant are one of the best, most creative, most unique, and most ambitious and intelligent metal bands out there right now today. I highly recommend you check it out. Also, possibly my favorite metal album of the year so far? Honestly, yeah. Fuck it. I'ma say it. 5 out of 5. I fucking love this album. Check it out, or else I will hunt you down in the same streets that Imperial Triumphant write about in their songs. Cheers. Ah! I should eat something. I've had a lot to drink. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I am not an expert, nor do I claim to be. So what do you think? Do you like this record? Do you not like this record? Why don't you like this record? What the fuck is wrong with you? And what do you want to hear from me next? Thank you for watching. Press subscribe button to see the other video. Wow, another button to see the other video. Wow, join us on Discord. Is that my wife?
Yeah.
Wow, you're home.
I am.
I'm recording the video.
Wow.
That's okay, because I'm done. Say bye.
Bye.
Bye. Also, hello.
Bye.
Hello and goodbye.